Every summer, the same thing happens to millions of American families. You plan a backyard cookout, plant a garden you have been looking forward to all year, or just try to sit outside and enjoy a warm evening. And within minutes, they find you. Mosquitoes. Relentless, buzzing, biting, and seemingly impossible to get rid of no matter what you try. So you do what everyone does. You head to the store and you load up. Citronella candles that burn out in 2 hours and barely work beyond a 3-foot radius. Spray cans of DEET that leave a chemical film on your skin and smell like a hardware store. Plug-in zappers that kill everything except the mosquitoes. Coils, wristbands, clip-on repellers, yard foggers that cost $40 a bottle and require you to evacuate your own backyard for 2 hours before they are safe to be around again. You spend the money. You follow the instructions. And by the second week of July, you are still getting eaten alive every time you walk out the back door. There is a reason for that. And once you understand it, you will also understand why a method that Amish farming families have quietly relied on for generations works so much better than anything sold in a box with a label. What we are talking about today costs about $3. In some cases, nothing at all if you already have it growing nearby or in your kitchen. It does not require electricity, batteries, or chemicals. It does not wear off after 2 hours or lose effectiveness after a rainfall. And when it is set up correctly, it targets the one thing that every commercial mosquito product completely ignores: the actual reason mosquitoes are in your yard in the first place. Stay with me, because this goes deeper than just planting a few herbs and hoping for the best. There is a specific method, a specific placement strategy, and a specific combination of elements that makes this work the way it does. And by the end of this video, you will have everything you need to set it up yourself before the next warm weekend arrives. Before we get into it, I want to hear from you. Drop it in the comments right now. What is your biggest mosquito or pest problem in your outdoor space this season? Are they taking over your garden, ruining your evenings on the porch, or making it impossible for your kids to play outside? Let me know where you are located too, because regional differences in mosquito species and seasonal timing actually matter for how you apply what we are covering today. This community has growers and homesteaders from every corner of the country, and your experience is genuinely useful to everyone reading along. Now let us start with the real problem, because most people are treating the symptom instead of the source, and that is exactly why nothing they try ever fully works. Mosquitoes do not randomly appear in your yard. They are drawn there by a combination of very specific conditions. And unless you change those conditions, you can spray and burn and zap all season long, and you will keep getting the same results. Female mosquitoes, the ones doing the biting, are hunting for 2 things: a blood meal to support egg production, and standing water to lay those eggs. That second part is the one most people dramatically underestimate. A mosquito can complete its entire larval development cycle in less than a tablespoon of standing water. A clogged gutter, a low spot in the lawn that holds water after rain, a forgotten bucket, a tray under a flower pot. The crease in a tarp, the rim of a bird bath that has not been changed in a week. Any of these can sustain a mosquito breeding population, large enough to make your entire backyard miserable. And here is what makes it worse. Mosquitoes have a flight range of roughly 1 to 3 miles, but they breed close to where they emerge. If you have a breeding source within 50 feet of where you like to sit outside, you are essentially producing your own mosquito population on a weekly cycle. Commercial repellents work on the individual. They create a chemical barrier around your body that interferes with the mosquito's ability to locate you. Some of them work reasonably well for that purpose, but they do nothing about the population. Every morning you wake up, the yard resets. The breeding continues. The numbers stay the same or grow. You are in a permanent defensive position, spending money every week to maintain a chemical shield that never actually solves anything. Traditional farming communities, including the Amish families of the Mid-Atlantic and Midwest, understood this at a foundational level. When you live close to the land, when your livelihood depends on being able to work outside from sunrise to sunset without being driven indoors by insects, you develop an intimate understanding of what actually controls pest populations and what merely masks the problem temporarily. Their approach was never reactive. It was environmental. They built conditions that mosquitoes avoid, rather than constantly defending against mosquitoes that had already moved in. The core of the method we are talking about today is built around a category of plants that produce volatile organic compounds, natural aromatic oils, and chemical signals that interfere with the sensory system mosquitoes use to locate hosts and breeding sites. These are not just pleasant-smelling plants that happen to repel bugs. Several of them have been studied extensively, and the active compounds they release have measurable, documented effects on mosquito behavior. What the Amish and other traditional farming communities figured out empirically, soil scientists and entomologists have since confirmed in controlled research. But here is the part that most people who have tried mosquito-repelling plants before get completely wrong. And it is why so many gardeners plant lavender or lemon balm in their yard and then wonder why it does not seem to make any difference. The plant, sitting passively in a pot, does relatively little. The volatile compounds that repel mosquitoes are concentrated in the plant's oils, and most of them are only released meaningfully when the plant is disturbed, when leaves are brushed, crushed, or broken. A pot of lavender sitting on your deck is not releasing much of anything into the surrounding air unless someone is physically handling it. The same goes for most of the commonly recommended mosquito-repelling plants. Their passive presence alone is not the mechanism. The release of their oils is the mechanism. The Amish method accounts for this in a way that changes everything about how the plants are used. Here is the approach, broken down practically so you can implement it this week. The $3 investment refers primarily to a packet of seeds or a small starter plant of one or more of the key species. The ones with the strongest documented repellent activity and the most practical applications for a backyard or homestead setting are lavender, lemon balm, citronella grass, catnip, and basil. Of these, catnip deserves special attention because it contains a compound called nepetalactone that research from Iowa State University found to be roughly 10 times more effective at repelling mosquitoes than DEET in laboratory conditions. That is not a folk claim, that is peer-reviewed science. A small catnip plant costs about $2 to $3 at most garden centers or feed stores, and it is extraordinarily easy to grow in almost any climate across the United States. But again, the plant alone sitting in the corner of your yard is not going to transform your evenings outside. The placement and activation strategy is what separates this method from the version most people have already tried and dismissed. Plant your chosen species, and using 2 or 3 in combination is more effective than relying on a single plant, in clusters at the key transition points around your outdoor living area, along the edges of your porch or patio, flanking the entrance to your garden, along the path you walk most often when moving between your house and your yard. The goal is to place them where human traffic will naturally brush against them repeatedly throughout the day and evening, releasing their oils passively through normal activity. Additionally, and this is the piece of the method that most people never hear about, cut fresh stems of the strongest-smelling plants every few days and place them in small bundles near your seating areas. A bundle of fresh crushed lemon balm or catnip in a jar of water on your outdoor table releases a continuous stream of volatile compounds for hours. When the scent starts to fade, crush the stems again or replace them with fresh cuttings. This costs you nothing once the plants are established, and it creates an active repellent zone around your primary outdoor living space rather than a passive one. Now, let me tell you about the second half of this method, because the plants are only part of the picture. Remember what we talked about at the beginning. Mosquitoes need standing water to breed, and eliminating breeding sites is the only strategy that actually reduces the population, rather than just repelling individuals. Amish homesteads historically managed standing water through a combination of landscape design and a few specific additions to water features that could not simply be eliminated. Stock tanks, rain barrels, and irrigation ponds. The most effective of these traditional solutions is also the simplest. Dunks made from a naturally occurring soil bacterium called Bacillus thuringiensis israelensis, commonly called BTI. And one small dunk treats 50 square feet of standing water for 30 days. A pack of 6 costs around $8 to $10 and lasts an entire season for most homesteads. For truly small water sources, bird baths, rain barrel overflow dishes, decorative pond features, a practical old-fashioned trick is to add a small amount of apple cider vinegar. Roughly 1 tablespoon per gallon of water raises the acidity just enough to disrupt larval development without harming birds that drink from the bath or beneficial insects. Here is the retention moment I want you to hold on to, because what I am about to share changes how most people think about all of this. The single most powerful mosquito management tool on any traditional homestead was not a plant and it was not a water treatment. It was biodiversity. Specifically, it was the deliberate encouragement of mosquito predators. Bats are the most dramatic example. A single little brown bat, the most common bat species across most of the United States, can consume over 1,000 mosquitoes in a single hour of feeding. 1 bat, 1 hour. A colony of a dozen bats living in a bat house mounted on the south-facing wall of a barn or outbuilding can functionally eliminate the mosquito population from several acres of surrounding land. And once a colony establishes, which typically happens within 1 to 2 seasons, the biological control they provide is continuous, permanent, and completely free. Amish farms almost universally have bat populations, not by accident, by design. Bat houses cost between $12 and $30 at most farm supply stores, or they can be built from scrap lumber for essentially nothing. They take less than an afternoon to install, and once a colony establishes, which typically happens within 1 to 2 seasons, the biological control they provide is continuous, permanent, and completely free. Amish farms almost universally have bat populations, not by accident, by design. Purple martins, swallows, and dragonflies are additional predators that traditional farmers actively encouraged through habitat management. Dragonflies alone are extraordinarily efficient mosquito predators. A backyard pond or water feature with aquatic plants and a healthy dragonfly population can consume hundreds of mosquito larvae per day before they ever reach adulthood. This is ecological thinking. It is the operating system of every successful traditional farm that managed pest pressure without chemical inputs. You do not fight nature. You recruit it. Let us bring this together practically, because the real power of what we have covered today comes from using these elements as a system rather than individual solutions. Start by walking your property and identifying every possible standing water source. Empty, move, or treat every one you find. This takes less than an hour and immediately disrupts whatever breeding cycle is currently operating in your yard. This is your foundation. Nothing else works as well without it. Next, spend $3 on a catnip plant or a packet of lemon balm seeds. If you want to build the full system quickly, grab one of each and add a small basil plant for the garden border. Plant them at the edges of your patio, along your walking paths, and at the entry points. Crush a few leaves each time you walk past them. Within a few weeks, as the plants establish and fill in, the passive oil release from normal foot traffic will be doing a meaningful portion of the work for you. Install a bat house before the end of the season. Mount it at least 10 to 15 feet off the ground on a structure that gets morning sun. Be patient with this one. Bat colonies take time to discover and move into a new house, but once they do, they return year after year. And throughout the season, keep fresh crushed herb bundles near your outdoor seating. Replace them every few days. This is the immediate impact component. There is something worth sitting with as you think about all of this. The mosquito problem is not new. People have been living and working outside in warm climates for all of human history. The idea that we need a chemical industry to make our backyards livable is actually a very recent invention. For the vast majority of human agricultural history, people managed insect pressure through observation, ecology, and the kind of practical plant knowledge that got passed down from one generation to the next because it genuinely worked. The Amish retained that knowledge not out of stubbornness but because it keeps working, season after season, without a trip to the store, without a credit card, without reading the warning label on a can of something you are not entirely sure is safe to breathe. $3 and a willingness to think differently about your outdoor space. That is the actual cost of entry. Everything else builds from there. If you found this useful, share it with someone who spends every summer fighting this same battle. And drop a comment below. I want to know what mosquito solution you have tried in the past that either worked surprisingly well or completely let you down. The answers in this community are always more useful than anything you will find on the back of a product label.